And we are rolling on November 22nd here at UCLA, where it's a beautiful day. The sunshine is. And we're about to hear Isabel do an impromptu speech on the question. We cannot control the evil tongues of others, but a good life enables us to disregard them. Cato the Elder.
So what defines a good life? Is it how successful you are, how many friends you have, how much money you make? I think it's none of the above, but rather how you treat others that defines a good life. And I believe that treating others with kindness and humility and gratitude and above all respect is what will make your life good at the end of the journey for you. It's so easy to get lost in what other people are doing and how they treat you and how they behave around you, that we can so often lose sight of the fact that we have control over our own lives and how good they are. So today I will give you 3 examples of why I think that treating others with respect leads to a good life and enables you to disregard all the evils that you encounter throughout life. And those examples will be the Golden Rule, Harry Potter, and the respect exercise that our class did this quarter. Okay, so the first example that I want to share with you today is called the Golden Rule. And this is something that really defined my growing up in my childhood, and this is treat others as you wish to be treated. So whenever I was upset or somebody was mean to me, my mom would remind me of this and say, just, don't overreact, treat others as you want to be treated. And a specific example that I can recall is my very short-lived, sad middle school basketball career, in which I was coming off of year 2 with no baskets made, except for one on the wrong team. And this kind of led some of the other girls on the team to bully me and not be super nice to me. Just picture like scrawny little ginger Isabel, like in her basketball shorts. It was really sad. So one particular day, a girl just tripped me in front of everyone and laughed. And I came home that day sad and crying, and I wanted, to call her mean names, and my mom just sat me down and she goes, this is going to be super frustrating, but remember, treat others as you wish to be treated. So if she's mean to you at the next practice, smile and say something nice to her, and I guarantee you that things will change. And I was like, are you kidding? So the next practice I show up and we're picking teams for like 4-way games, scrimmages, and of course I'm like the last one remaining, not picked yet, and this girl just goes like, yeah, nobody wants you on their team because you suck. And made me really sad, but I decided to just take a deep breath and say, smile and say, you know what, you have a great free throw. I'd love if you could help me out sometime. And she was instantly looked like she felt bad and started being nicer to me, and we actually became friends from there, and it was great. So this example shows that by treating somebody else with respect, even though they hadn't treated me that way, it kind of enhanced our relationship, and it just made life better. And from there on out, I was going to practice and enjoying it, and you can control how your life goes. That's an example. My second example of why treating others with respect leads to a good life comes from my favorite fictional character, Harry Potter. So Harry Potter is a famous wizard, and he is constantly met with a lot of evil forces and darkness, and what makes his character so great is that he's able to rise above and really just stay focused on being a good person and making the right decisions. He has this mentor throughout the saga. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with this, but Dumbledore. And Dumbledore tells Harry, it's the choices that you make that define your character, not your abilities. And I think Harry really takes this in stride, and every time he's met with these people that just shoot him down and try to defeat his character, he rises above and doesn't let this evil consume him. And he treats people with respect when they really don't deserve it. One of my favorite parts of these stories is that those that he goes out of his way to treat with respect and to treat kindly always show up for him in the end when he needs them. For example, Dobby. It's a great example. And so I think that Harry is a fictional character, but it shows that even if you're met with great forces of evil tongues, just darkness, you can always make a choice to disregard them and make your life good. The third example I have for you today of how treating others with respect leads to a good life comes from the respect exercise that our class did this quarter. So you all remember Professor Miller told us to, for a week, spend that week treating others with respect, both verbally and non-verbally. And I personally thought this was a little silly at first and didn't really know how to go about it. But after a couple days of reflecting with our class, I realized the impact that it had on my day-to-day life and how it really did just make each day so much better, whether it was talking to a cashier at Ralph's or learning these great, interesting facts about strangers I just wouldn't have learned otherwise. And it showed me that choosing to treat others with respect and to treat others kindly can really just make your day so much better and will just really prepare you for a good life with great relationships. So in summary, I've given you 3 examples of how treating others with respect can make your life a good one. I told you about my middle school basketball experience. I told you about Harry Potter, and we reviewed our class exercise that we did. I think that life is so short, so why not wake up tomorrow and treat everyone kindly and make it a good day? Because a good day makes for a good life. That is all.
Thank you. That was 5:05. Thank you. Okay. So let's start in the rear.
I thought it was really good. Your first, like your whole life story and all of it was really funny, so it made us chuckle. I thought it was really, really wrong of you to bring up Dobby, but it's fine. Other than that, I forgive you for doing that. It's really sad. You really emotionally connected to each one of us here. I mean, I even for sure with me, with your whole story. I even like pictured you getting bullied, which was not good. And then you also brought up like, picture me, ginger and scrawny, and so I thought you really like, and put us into the story, and so that was really
Cool.
Well, I think she did very great. I don't think she needs to answer.
She was perfect. Okay, yeah. Isabel, really good job, and thank you for volunteering to go first. Your quote from Cato says, "We cannot control the evil tongues of others, but a good life enables us to disregard them." I like your examples. I would have liked a little bit more evil tongues. I got evil tongues in the first 2. I didn't get a lot of evil tongue in the 3rd example. And I would have liked you to have talked about an instance where a waitress spit in your food and you still said, "I respect you," or something, or how you still repeated the mantra in light of an evil tongue or something like that, or someone in junior high called you a slut and you knew you're a Vestal virgin and so you knew you didn't have to worry, right? That sort of thing, Yeah. But you followed the pattern of organization nicely. We had your introduction of you setting up what's a good life. You summarized the 3 things and you tied back to the good life. A little bit longer. You used 5 of the 7 minutes. But you did a nice job on Impromptu, so very nice. Thank you. Hey, you didn't die. Okay, that brings us to Melissa. Thank you, Moses. Okay. There you are. Wait a minute. No, that's not you. That's an extemp speech. Okay. Oh, there you are. Okay, good. Yeah. Okay, Melissa. I'd like to hear number 2. Better to bend than to break. a French proverb. Oh, while she's writing, Isabel, and to others, if you know a little something about the philosopher, in case you happen to Google him and knew a little something, and throw that in to show your erudite or when he lived or what he did, or something about his students and followers. Bonus. Yes, please.
Hypothetically, if you were giving an impromptu during a debate, does the debate team practice memorizing all of these basic, like, philosophers, so that no matter which proverb they've given, they have a little background on where it comes from?
Well, some have a great memory and they'll do it. I don't know if you saw a Nish debate, but he has an encyclopedic command of facts that he can associatively pull in and cite. But it takes a special kind of brain and a lot of hard work, and it doesn't, no one's born with knowledge of Cato. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Oh, you're tall. Okay. Okay, you're good now.
Do I introduce myself?
You're good? Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hi. Can I start?
Hi, Melissa.
Should I wait for your time?
Yeah.
It's completely obvious that we are all different from each other. In certain ways, we are similar. We may share the same opinions, the same taste in music, or even food preferences. At times, who we are as a person can serve as a cage in which we are all trapped in. This cage makes it difficult for us to understand that people differ in ways that are not so easily noticeable. These misunderstandings can cause interpersonal problems. And the outcomes of these misunderstandings depend on whether the person bends or breaks. Today, I want to dissect the French proverb that asks, or claims, better to bend than to break. I will use the following 3 actions as my tools in order to attempt to break apart and explain the aforementioned proverb: respect, empathy, and patience. We all here have someone we care about, and hopefully we will meet more people to care about. Being able to understand this proverb is one thing, but putting it into action is a whole new ballgame.
Well, tell me about respect.
Okay, the first tool I present to you is respect. If you guys remember, in the first week of class we did this respect exercise. I have to admit, at first I found it a little bit silly, but as we continued that exercise and put that exercise into practice, I realized how fundamental it is. Now, I'm not trying to say I never knew respect was important, but rather, I never paid attention to how it could open doors for you. You get to meet new people, and you learn about them. After all, Nietzsche said that individuals function as mirrors that we use to see parts of ourselves. If we respect that every single person has their own set of customs, then in a way, we appreciate them. You mustn't impose your own customs onto that of others, because doing so causes tension between you and that other person. Disrespecting customs of others demonstrates your ability to break rather than bend when encountering things outside of your norm. It's 2016, you guys, and nowadays we have such things like furries, bronies or brawny, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, fluid genders, so on and so forth. Many people are firm on their beliefs and customs, and these exact same things can act as a cage. Whether you do or do not desire to be free of the cage, we must remember to respect those who long for the clouds, just as we expect for them to respect us. If you are a bird who came out of its cage, no, that's wrong. A second tool that I present to you is empathy. Now, the tricky part about this tool is its simplicity. It's not simply saying I understand what you mean. It's about feeling it. For example, if a wealthy individual were to come to me and complain that their vacation to the Caribbean was suddenly canceled, I can say I understand, but I probably wouldn't really feel it because I've never been in that circumstance before. As stated by the best-selling author Daniel H. Pink, empathy is about standing in someone else's shoes, feeling with his or her heart, seeing with his or her eyes. When encountering customs that differ from your own, remember that although they differ, the logic behind them still remains. They are particular to you and define you. Having your own set of customs actually acts as those shoes in the quote, thus being able to take that first step towards empathy, and hence empathy is what gives you the ability to bend. If you're a bird who came out of its cage, having empathy allows for you to understand what it is like to be a bird within its cage. As Aristotle said, to perceive is to suffer. My third and last tool that I present to you is patience. Having patience precedes both respect and empathy because it is what allows for you to take a second and absorb the context. Patience is a pathway that leads to having respect for customs, respect and empathy for those who break rather than bend, and patience while sitting inside your cage. The American writer Arnold H. Glasso said it best. The key to everything is patience. You get the chicken by hatching the egg, not by smashing it. When encountering values, opinions, beliefs that differ from your own, patience in combination with respect and empathy is what gives you the strength to bend. Erik Erikson, a renowned developmental psychologist, said, "The more you know yourself, the more patience you have for what you see in others." In summary, I have presented to you 3 tools in order to better understand and explain the French proverb. The first tool was respect, followed by empathy and culminating with patience. There should be no doubt in this room that we all certainly have the capacity to have respect, empathy, and patience. Although these 3 may have seemed intertwined throughout my presentation, it's important to remember to see these as puzzle pieces. Alone, they do not stand, but together complete the picture. As we continue on with our daily lives, remember to think outside your cage. And most importantly, don't forget to take along with you your 3 handy tools.
Thank you.
I forgot so many parts.
602.
Come on.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
That was like the first time.
Oh, we're in the rear. Sorry. Moses. Would you like?
Hi, my name is Moses.
Hi, Moses.
I'm pretty sure it's really hard to like just randomly skip over something, but I thought you did a really good job. I can tell that you were navigating like really quickly in your mind. So I was a little worried that you will stumble, but then you actually like went through really well. I really like the tools that you provided, and I also really like your intro. It was although like it wasn't really complete, but at the same time it was structure-wise it was really good. So it was really easy to follow, even though it wasn't complete.
I really like your speech, Peter.
I did.
I really like your speech. One thing I can say to improve on would be, I mean, it's an impromptu speech, so you're expected to, stumble, but the important part is that you collected and kept moving forward. Maybe at times it could have felt a bit rehearsed for impromptu, but overall you did really good.
Melissa, yeah. It was an interesting speech. Better to blend than to break. Better to bend than break. And you were saying blend.
You said blend.
I said blend, and it's bend. Yeah, so that I threw you off, I guess, a little bit. On the your intro and your thesis, you set up what you were going to do. You told us the things, and then you seemed to be kind of lost on how to go forward there at that moment. But you kind of had a recovery. You kept this pretty abstract, and I would have liked to have just a few more little stories if you could have presented them.
I forgot.
Yeah.
I just completely forgot.
Yeah. What I was really intrigued by was you made a lot of references to your other impromptu.
Yeah. The thing was, I thought they were really good examples of better than bend to break, because when you have your own customs, you either are very like bend or you break, and then every country has its customs.
And as you did that, I was worried that you were suddenly going to go off into another speech, but then I realized you were linking it to this speech, so that was fine. It was just interesting because her other topics had to do with the bird being caged and the customs of a country, so that's why it appeared there. Yeah. So, respect and empathy and patience will give you the ability to bend and not break. And the alternative is, if you don't bend, you will break. And there are people that are inflexible and are brittle, and that's sort of the. There are some historical examples, and I always think of a river that comes upon a rock and it doesn't break the rock; it just flows around it, and that sort of thing. Your summary was fine. Your conclusion was good, and the tie back was okay. I just would have liked to have had more stories.
Yeah, I forgot.
And when you watch yourself tonight on YouTube, you're going to see that you were a little halting in your presentation. You know, you were just
I think
unsure of yourself. But what now?
No, well, because I forgot so many parts that I think that's what caused me to halt then later on.
Yeah. Okay, well, the solution is to practice and to work on a fluency that comes with using your preview to know what you're going to say and then following that preview up. And it's often helpful, folks, if after you've made your first point, if you link it back to your thesis or your position. And that's why respect will give you the ability to bend and not break, and that's why empathy, developing empathy, will give you the ability to bend and not break, which is a good thing, and being patient. See, so go back to your central thesis of it. It's desirable to bend and not break. You could have easily taken a harder position in saying that, standing up for principles, you don't want to bend. But I think that this is getting along the way you talked about it. Interpersonal relations was a good approach. So overall, you did a good job. You got it done. Thank you. Okay, that will bring us to Lauren. Yeah, we're supposed to clap for everyone, especially the volunteers. Lauren, yeah. Free country. People are dying in Iraq and in Fallujah, etc. So you have freedom, Lauren. Enjoy it. Okay, let me find. Lauren's crossed out. Okay. There you are. Okay. Okay. It's a great one. Yeah, that's a good one too. Yeah. Okay, Lauren. I'd like to hear an impromptu topic on the Romanian proverb. Don't sell the skin till you've caught the bear. I repeat, don't sell the skin till you've caught the bear. What?
Can I do my public policy question on this?
Email me. Lauren stands before you, managing attention, communicating respect, finding friendly eyes, get in the power stance, saying she respects her audience and really means it. Say your name, feel the love, say your speech.
Hello, I'm Lauren.
Hi, Lauren.
So who's all going to the UCLA versus Cal game this weekend? I'm going. Okay, well, who wants us to win the game this weekend?
Yeah.
So even though we all obviously want to win the game this weekend, I would advise you all not to start planning your victory celebrations yet, because it's not good to sell the skin until you've caught the bear. This is a Romanian proverb, which I believe means that you shouldn't celebrate too early. And I agree with this sentiment for 3 reasons. First being that you haven't yet caught the bear. The second reason is that it could be very embarrassing for you if you don't end up catching the bear. And thirdly, that it's better to be prudent than optimistic. So I hope this is something that you guys are all interested in hearing about, because you have no choice, first of all. Also, just that I'm sure we've all been in situations before where we expect something to turn out a certain way, and we kind of start celebrating prematurely, and we all kind of know what it feels like when you realize that you have celebrated too early and that you probably should have waited until you have actually caught the bear. So the first reason why I believe you should not sell the skin until you've caught the bear is that there's a chance that you will never catch the bear. So to illustrate this point, I'm going to tell you guys a brief story about my applying for jobs and internships last year. So I was going through tons of, I'm sure as you guys are all familiar with, just kind of frantically trying to find an internship at the end of the year last year, and ended up contacting a company that I thought was super interesting and I could really see myself working at. So I ended up getting a phone interview, and I was really excited about it at the time. So after the interview happened, I felt so good about it. I felt like I really connected with the person on a personal level. We ended up speaking for an hour and a half. And so when I hung up the phone, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so stoked. I feel like I definitely got the job. And I was really excited, and I actually started celebrating even though I hadn't heard back from them yet. So I'm going to kind of continue along with the story throughout my other reasons. So the second reason why I believe you should never sell the skin until you've caught the bear is that it can be very embarrassing for you if you don't end up actually catching the bear. So just to go along with the story that I started, so yeah, I kind of was very confident in myself that I had landed this job, and so I called my dad, and I was like, Dad, I'm so excited, I think I'm going to have an internship for this summer, you don't have to worry about me anymore. And so he kind of celebrated with me. He ended up telling my mom, who then told my aunt, who told my sister, and my grandma. So everyone in my family thought that I was employed when in reality I wasn't. And so I'm kind of waiting to get the call telling me that I was going to be given an official offer, and as the weeks went on, it didn't really happen. And so I ended up emailing the person 2 weeks later, hello, remember me? I'm the girl who wants to work there. What's happening? And then she kind of just responded being Dear Lauren, I know we had a great conversation, and I really connected with you, and I think you could do a great job in this industry, but unfortunately this is just not going to be the fit for you this summer. And I was like, oh I'm disappointed because I still don't have a job, and I'm also disappointed because I've felt the joy of the celebration and shared it with other people already. So I sold the skin before I had caught the bear, and now not only was I disappointed, but I was also embarrassed because I had to go back and tell all my family members that I still was on the market for a job. So the third reason why I believe you should never sell the skin until you've caught the bear is that it's better to be prudent than optimistic. So to continue along with this narrative, during this 2-week period that I was kind of like waiting to hear back, but basically assumed that I was already going to be employed, I kind of like stopped applying to other jobs, missed the deadline to apply to a few other jobs that I probably should have in hindsight. Started spending a lot of money because I was like, woo, I have a job. I spent like $200 on like food and like God knows what else just because I was so optimistic in the fact that I would have employment for the summer. And so when I realized that I hadn't caught the bear, I was very disappointed in myself because I didn't plan for the future very well, and I let my like blind optimism kind of get in the way of planning for my future and like saving money when I probably should have, and continuing to apply to jobs when I probably should have. So yeah, in conclusion, I have shown 3 reasons why you should never sell the skin before you've caught the bear. First is that there's a chance you will not actually catch the bear. Second is that it will be very embarrassing for you if you do not catch the bear. And third, that it's better to be prudent and like realistic when you plan for the future rather than to be optimistic. So there should be no doubt in this room that you should always wait until you've caught the bear before selling the skin, and you should never celebrate too early because it can set you up for a lot of sadness and disappointment. So even though we all want to win the game this weekend, I encourage you all to wait to plan your celebratory parties, etc., until we have actually skinned the golden bears.
Thank you. What was your time on that?
5:40.
5:40, thank you.
I thought you were. Oh, I'm James.
Hi, James.
For the
Home,
18th.
James. Yeah.
Last name is and I think you did really well. I thought the stories, because they were so personal.
Yeah, they were.
Because they were so. Oh, you were shaking your head. Sorry. Because they were so personal, they were easy to identify with, and because we felt your embarrassment, it resonated with us.
Good. Improvement.
I thought it was a good speech. Can't really think of anything to improve on. Yeah, I can't really have any improvements. That was good.
She was perfect.
I forget.
Okay. Lauren. Good. I love the cow bear ending and the cow show of hands. Get people to raise their hand. No one raised, many raised their hand. But you played it well with the idea of the quote, and then you presented it. You had a good thesis preview, which you laid out your position nicely. Your SIG statement was well argued. On your first reason, you told us about your applying for an internship and left us hanging, and so that was kind of good because you left some tension in the speech, but I think we kind of knew what was coming, but still it was well done with creating tensiveness there. Second reason, yes, embarrassing. You told everybody in the world and shouted it from the mountain high, and your aunt, your uncle, your mother, your cousins, and everybody were very proud of you, your dad, yeah, and he was proud, and so then you had to go and backtrack, and that had to have been a little embarrassing, or quite a bit embarrassing probably. On your third reason about being prudent, spending money and not keeping applying and stuff like that was these stories really made the speech real, and we were very attached to the stories. Interestingly enough, one thing that you left hanging, and I'm curious about, and if this is too personal, you don't have to answer, but did you ever get a job or an
Yes, I did.
internship that summer?
I did.
So you did,
Finally,
okay.
yes.
By the skin of your chinny chin chin, huh? Yeah. And you said in conclusion, it's summary, and summary, I've told you, and you had time, you could have detailed it a little more. Your conclusion was fine, and your tie back was clever. So you were very fluent and very smooth, and you knew your material, and you knew what you wanted to say. So you really did a nice job. And what I'm looking for with the impromptu is a certain level of smoothness, and you had that level of smoothness. You weren't halting or didn't know what to say next. You knew what you were going to say next, and you said it. So you did a very nice job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. That brings us to James. Do we have anybody after Rachel Leah? No, oh, good. Another one. No. Okay, James, let me find you in the old sign-up sheet. Oh, there you are. Yeah, interesting. Okay, yeah. I'd like you to talk about the Filipino proverb, even if you are wealthy, it still pays to be thrifty. Even if you are wealthy, it still pays to be thrifty. Anything like nails on a blackboard.
That's my teaching career is on.
Yeah. Okay, let me get you in focus. There you are in focus. He's managing attention, they're talking, communicating respect non-verbally, finding friendly eyes near the front and the center. Say your name, feel the love. Start your speech.
Hi, I'm James Gardner.
Hi, James.
In high school, I had this teacher, and she was my favorite teacher. And so every day I would talk to her. She was wonderful. Her name was Miss Swift. And so I had first period with her. Now, one day during class, I looked on the walls and I noticed that we had Proverbs all over the walls. And so they were from all over, from all sorts of countries. And one day I asked her, "What's your favorite proverb up there?" Now, she's pointed out an Albanian quote, not a Filipino quote, but it turns out it's the same quote, which is, even if you are wealthy, it still pays to be thrifty. Now, I asked her, what does this mean? And she says, well, think about a proverb in the sense that, who would you say this to and in what circumstance? So I said, okay, so if you're going to say, even if you're wealthy, it still pays to be thrifty. So if someone if someone is not preparing themselves should something horrible happen or should something doesn't go their way, then they are missing out. So the way I interpret this quote is, no matter what, you should always prepare should the worst circumstance come up so that you can address it and make sure it doesn't happen to go worse than you thought. And why you should care about this is because in all of your lives, horrible things are going to happen. And you have to be able to address it, so you have to plan ahead. And so the three examples I want to use to prove this point is, number one, Hurricane Katrina, disaster preparedness. Number two, Hillary Clinton's hubris. And number three, my own dad's wishful thinking. So number one is Hurricane Katrina and the disaster preparedness. So Hurricane Katrina, as you know, hit in 2005 and basically wiped out the city of New Orleans. It killed over 1,000 people and it caused over $1 billion in damage. So what could politicians have done? What could the federal government, state government, and the local government have done? So they didn't have an evacuation plan. They didn't secure the levees that were already old, and they didn't have a plan to restore the city should something happen. And so if they were taking this proverb into account, even if you're wealthy, it still pays to be thrifty, they would think, okay, we want to address these problems now so that before it happens, we can take care of it. So that's the first one. The second point is Hillary Clinton's hubris. All throughout the campaign this year, Hillary Clinton thought she had it made. Against Bernie Sanders, she had the DNC backing her, along with the Democratic establishment other than the DNC. There were even emails within the DNC saying, how can we address these, how can we take care of the Bernie Sanders supporters? She had so much hubris that when she won the nomination, she didn't feel that she had to court the Sanders supporters. In one of her interviews, she said that, I don't know if you guys know this, but I won. They have to adopt my policies rather than her adopting theirs. So, as we all know, Donald Trump cleaned her clock. And this was not good for her. And what she could have done instead is prepared for that situation. So in that circumstance, she should have courted Bernie Sanders supporters and not underestimated her opponent. And the third point I want to point out is that, my own dad's story. So my dad, he worked for the city of Pasadena for 30 years. He worked his way up from being a construction worker that worked on the roads and sewers and bridges. Pasadena has some beautiful bridges. I sound like Donald Trump there. And so he worked his way up over 30 years to become several levels up in management. Now, when the crisis of 2008 hit, a lot of the city's employees had to either be fired or they had to have they had to have their salaries cut so they could support having more employees. They could keep the other employees and not fire the employees. So, So he had done this job for so long that he assumed that he would be able to hold the job, that they would not go have him on the chopping block. However, unfortunately, he lost his job and we had some economic hardship. And this was partly because he did not prepare for what he thought was impossible. He was not thrifty. So we ended up losing our house and living in an apartment. This circumstance could have been remedied had he thought ahead and tried to get more marketable skills or been aware of what could have happened. In closing, I have shown you 3 ways in which, even if you're wealthy, it still pays to be thrifty, aka even if you have things going for you, you should still prepare for the worst. There should be no doubt in this room that that is true. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Where are we?
Very young. First of all, I want to congratulate you for finishing off your speech, impromptu speech, and overall, yeah, you've done a great job. I like the examples that you've used. The first 2, we're all familiar with the Hurricane Katrina and Hillary Clinton, and I like your personal story.
Would you call it Killer Clinton?
No, Hillary.
Oh, Hillary Clinton.
So, yeah, well done.
Thank you.
Hillary Clinton.
Hi, I'm Ashley.
Hi, Ashley.
James, your speech was really, really good this week. I've seen a really good improvement, and I think that's what this class is for. You've done a really good job. I guess for improvement, if I had to say anything, it's just to not beat yourself up if you forget something. Because you were at a really emotional part in your story, and it was like really gripping, and I just kind of wish you just rolled with it and gone more on the story and not focused on like not remembering how you wanted to tell it. But overall, it was really, really good.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good. Well, for your introduction, you told us about Miss Swift.
Oh, yeah. Didn't come back to that at the end. I'm sorry.
And so I wanted to hear more about Miss Swift at the end and her proverb, right? It's called the tie back, and when you practice it, make sure you do all 7 of the steps of a prompt, and you want to always come to full circle, be it a speech, a paper, whatever you're doing. You want to begin and end at the same spot. See? Yeah. So, but I was very drawn into the Miss Swift story and her proverbs all over the wall, and I could see that happening and her explaining what the proverb meant. Your preview was fine. Your significant statement was okay. I'd like to see you move 3 times, and when you watch yourself tonight on YouTube, you'll see that you sway a great deal and lock your legs and you won't sway. But if you move, that will help the swaying. See, James? Yeah. You decided to talk about Katrina, and you decided to talk about the fact that the city wasn't prepared. They didn't build and set the pumps and do the right things in anticipation of this hurricane. I was trying to relate this back, even if you're wealthy, it still pays to be thrifty. And I was trying to relate that example back to, was New Orleans wealthy? No, not really. They were relying on the federal government to pay, and the federal government kept stiffing them. So I didn't get the wealthy, thrifty analysis there. Explain it to me again if you could.
So the way I worded it, this is why I got off track. But the idea was that wealthy doesn't represent literal wealth. It represents everything's going well.
Going well.
Yeah. So if nothing bad's happening and then something bad happens,
going well and anticipating problems. Yeah. Okay, good. So you presented a more general definition via Miss Swift. Yeah. Okay. Makes sense now. And regarding Hillary's hubris, as you put it, I like that nice alliteration. Mm-hmm. Her comment, many comments about the way she characterized Donald Trump's supporters.
And Bernie Sanders supporters. And I won. Yeah. She had fireworks lined up for her celebration.
Right. There's another story which I'll tell really quickly. David Geffen, the person that our med center is named after, a big Democratic supporter. Back when Obama was running against Hillary, he interviewed both of them, and he asked Hillary, "Why do you want to be president?" He expected her to say, "Oh, I want to help people," or something like that. And her answer was, "It's my time." And, David Geffen thought, "My God, lady, he thought to himself,
you were the heir to the presidency.
You're the heir to the presidency. You think you're entitled to the presidency." And he thought, I don't really want to support somebody that thinks they are entitled to be president of the United States. That's not a good enough reason for me to give millions of dollars. So, yeah. On your third reason, your dad's story. It was a good story. I could tell that you were emotional. You made a good emotional connection. Losing your house, having to move into an apartment, your father not anticipating the downturn, having other skills ready in case of a problem, this sort of thing. I could tell it was hard for you to talk about a little bit, but nonetheless you did. And it was very powerful and very good. Summary, okay. Conclusion,
I
okay.
was just happy to get to the 3 points.
Yeah, and then you rushed out of here without a tie back. So you did a nice job, James. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that brings us to Rachel Leah. Do we have another name to go up there?
Yeah. Which one am I doing?
Which one do you want to do?
Kind of detail.
Where are you? Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay, Rachel Leah. I'd like to hear the third quote.
Are you sure?
Positive.
Okay.
It's Confucius speaking, and he said, "Take pleasure in the arts."
Everyone knows what that one means.
Take pleasure in the arts. By Confucius. 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 Fucius. Sweet.
Alright. Let's do this.
Indeed.
I'm getting out all my energy.
Okay. Rachel Leah stands before you managing attention, communicating respect non-verbally, finding friendly eyes. Finding friendly eyes near the front and center. Say your name, feel the love, start your speech.
Hi, I'm Rachel Leah.
Hi, Rachel Leah.
So, as the lovely Isabel said earlier today, who's ever heard of the golden rule, right? We all know it. We've all heard it since we were 5. And the golden rule is treat others the way you want to be treated, right? And now imagine you're a preschool teacher and you're telling these kids that, and all of a sudden they're writing on each other's pieces of paper, they're hitting each other. So what does the teacher do? Obviously, they make that little sheet, and it's like, don't hit your friends, or do not write on the walls. They have to be very concrete with their students because most people don't understand what proverbs mean, right? So I was faced today with this proverb, take pleasure in the arts, and although you guys are all super intellectual and you might have different interpretations of it, for a lot of people giving these concrete answers of different interpretations can very much help people understand a proverb better. Think about it, that's why we use stories to help explain things. It makes things much more concrete for us. So I'm going to do 3 things for you guys today. I'm going to give you background on where this quote even comes from. Then I'm going to tell you what I think this quote means. And then I'm going to end with how you can apply this quote to your life. So why is it significant? Like I said, you hear these proverbs all the time. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Take pleasure in the arts. And we have no idea what they mean And by listening to stories and asking for these stories from your elders, when you hear such big abstract things, can better help you understand the way we see the world. So the three things that I think taking pleasure in the arts does are actually, first I'm going to start with the background of Confucius before I explain what the quote means. So, as you guys all probably know, Confucius is pretty old. He's actually from 551 BC, and he's a Chinese philosopher and writer. And basically what he tried to do was make these kinds of proverbs to help people better understand human relationships. So he broke down different relationships between people of the same social status, people of different social statuses, and of communities themselves. And so basically when I looked at this quote, I was thinking of how I could better understand this quote based on how Confucius looked at humans and populations. So the three reasons that I think that Confucius says take pleasure in the arts is for three reasons. The first reason is for discourse, the second reason is for escape, and the third reason is for fun, duh. So I'm going to give you three stories that will hopefully better help you understand this proverb and then be able to apply it to your life. So the first reason that I think Confucius says take pleasure in the arts is that arts can basically turn on a part of your brain that we don't normally use or see and can create discourse between humans to help them grow as people. So think about it. You're sitting in class and you're in a history class and you're learning about, let's say, the history of the Renaissance, right? None of it applies to you. You're hearing about knights on horses and swords and people taking baths like never. And you're like, this makes no sense to me. How can I better apply this? How can I better study this? How can this excite me, right? So then your teacher's like, all right, I'm going to take you to this Shakespeare play. And they bring your whole class and you get on the bus and you're so excited and you watch this play and this play excites you. It turns on a different part of your brain that you've never used before because you've been sitting in a classroom and it makes you excited, right? You're listening to all of the quotes. Let's say you're seeing Romeo and Juliet. And you know they're stabbing themselves and you're laughing, but then you're crying. And it turns on these different emotions that you're not able to pleasure within the classroom. And on top of that, when you're back on the bus, you're talking about it with your friends, right? You're engaging in this discourse about the material that you probably weren't engaging in before, and you're so much more excited about it. So how is anyone able to do this in their real life? Well, go engage in the arts because those can apply to so many historical contexts. They can apply to so many different things in your life that you may not be able to understand or find interesting unless you engage in them in a different way. The second reason that I think Confucius says take pleasure in the arts is it might help you actually escape from problems in your life. So there are two authors, you may or may not have ever heard from them, but a lot of famous authors either write, engage in poetry, art, music to actually escape. So if anyone's ever heard of Sylvia Plath, she's actually a poet that was around World War II, and she wrote some really depressing poetry, and for her, she was able to actually escape her own personal turmoil and take pleasure in the arts to escape her own life. Now, she did end up killing herself by sticking her head in an oven, fun fact, but the pleasure of the arts was a temporary escape from the world. And you've also noticed that a lot of big artists do this in general. Take, for example, Kanye West. So he obviously is taking so much pleasure from being this godlike figure standing up on stage, but let's be real, it's probably an escape because last night he checked into Ronald Reagan, fun fact, UCLA Medical Center. So while you can take pleasure in the arts, sometimes it is just a distraction from your real life. So the third reason you should take pleasure in the arts, guys, come on, it's fun. We all love it. We all love to do it, and it makes us feel good. Think about it. If we were sitting on our iPads and iPods and plugging in music all the time by ourselves, it probably wouldn't be as fun and exciting as going to, let's say, Coachella, which has hundreds of different kinds of music, hundreds of lineups, and most of all, hundreds of people. The reason that we totally take pleasure in these arts is not because we are doing it alone, but because we are engaging in it with other people. It makes us happy, it makes us excited, it makes us dance. Think about it. This speech right here is an art form. I am speaking to you guys. Hopefully some of you are smiling. Hopefully some of you are being pleasured by my speech. If you're not, I'm sorry. But it is making you feel some emotion, and I think that's what Confucius was really getting at. So, in summary, I have given you 3 different reasons why I think Confucius came up with the quote, take pleasure in the arts. The first reason is it helps create a public discourse. The second reason is it helps us escape what we might be dealing with. And the third is it's really fun. So how can you apply this to your life? Go to a concert, see a movie, engage yourself, talk to people, hang out with people. And the next time you have little kids that are breaking the rules and you're babysitting and they're writing on walls and they're punching each other and they're just totally not behaving and you don't know how to handle them, don't sit there and say the golden rule, guys, treat others the way you want to be treated. Come on here. Give them a story, engage them, do something artistic, maybe sing them a song, maybe draw them a picture of two kids fighting with each other and how that hurts. This is how we enjoy life, and this is how we teach others through stories. Thank you.
Thank you. 7 minutes. Where are we?
I think right here.
Here. Here.
Great job as always. Oh, I'm Lauren.
Hi, Lauren.
You did a really good job, like changing your volume and to kind of emphasize certain points, and your facial expressions and your movements like go along with what you're saying too. Like when you talk about how art is fun, you look like you're having fun. Just great.
Hi, Miss Ball.
Hi.
I feel like a seasoned vet at this point. It's great. I think, yeah, you made it really interesting, and you gave us background on Confucius, and then you really solid examples. I guess the only thing is like that second point. I don't like necessarily or engaging it with people. I feel like a lot of people do art individually, so that was kind of one point I wasn't super sure about. But other than that, it was like
Sylvia Plath example.
I don't know, just if you go paint in the dark room.
Yeah, yeah. Well, she put her head in the oven at the end, so.
It was temporary pleasure.
Temporary pleasure, she pointed out, yeah. Okay, Rachel Leah. Okay. I don't know why you were so reluctant to do. Shh. Quiet. I don't know why you were so reluctant to do this speech. You did a very good job on it. And you made strong arguments for taking pleasure in the arts, and you incorporated your classmate with the golden rule and so forth. And so the intro was good. Thesis preview worked nicely. I agree with Isabel that the second story didn't thrill me, but
Tried to be unexpected.
it was unexpected. Okay, we'll give you that one. The discourse was good, and the fun and the enjoyment. Yeah, I do think that people do things for the hell of it, for enjoyment, and not for any deep, serious purpose many times. And so I think that's just part of human nature, my personal view of that. Your summary, conclusion, and tieback were excellent. Very fluent, great vocal variety, so you really mastered this. And what, just out of curiosity, what of the other two speeches were you prepared that you thought was going to be so much better? Which topic?
The other two.
The other two. Loyalty and reciprocity, and I interpret, I don't create. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, well, they'll have to remain in the ether zone. In the twilight zone. Thank you. Okay, let's hear from Ashley. Yes, Ashley. Oh, Ashley. We need one more after Ashley. Who's that going to be?
Can we go home early for Thanksgiving?
Or what if Ash just was an extemp speech for us? We do this in second one.
No, we got to get these impromptu. He's going to do it at 4 o'clock. By the way, take your. Oh, I can choose, and I got to change the battery. It's dead. Okay. Ashley, where are you? There you are. Okay. That's a good one. Yeah. Actually, while I'm changing the battery, could you put the following quote on the board? Learning without thought is labor lost. Thought without learning is perilous. By our buddy Confucius.